Buenos dias to each and everyone. So today we're going to be talking about Jose Rizal's El Filibusterismo together with my fellow reporters in this topic. This topic will be covering the following contents. First is the definition of El Filibusterismo, to whom did Rizal dedicated his novel El Filibusterismo, experiences of Dr. Jose Rizal as he published the novel El Filibusterismo, sources of the novel's theme, synopsis of the story of the El Filibusterismo, characters in the novel El Filibusterismo, and lastly the comparison of Nolibi Tangere and El Filibusterismo. El Filibusterismo, which translates in Spanish as filibustering, meant the subversive or subversion. It is also known by its English alternative title, The Reign of Greed. So talking about the definition of El Filibusterismo, it is also reasonable to ask who is considered a filibustero in the Philippines in the time of Rizal. So Rizal sums up those who in modern civilized countries and under normal conditions would be considered good citizens, lovers of progress and enlightenment. All of these are looked upon as filibusters and enemies of public order, and like a lightning conductor, draws misery and richness upon themselves during turbulent times. Rizal dedicated a new book to the three priests, Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora, who were executed because of their supposed participation in the first revolutionary campaign of modern Philippine nationalism, the Mutiny of Cavite. The trial of the three priests was nothing more than a contrived show, like the trial of Rizal later. In accordance with a method tested and tried, prominent leaders were removed by making them responsible for actions which they not only did not commit, but to which they have always objected. Rizal derives the reason to dedicate the work to them from the fact that the church did not excommunicate the three priests, and that there were serious mistakes in the surreptitious trial, which responsibly led to his death sentence, and as victims of such circumstances, to the opposition which involved his lifetime work. Days flew swiftly for Rizal in Brussels like flying arrows. Day in and day out, he was busy revising and polishing the manuscript of El Filibusterismo so that it could be ready for the press. He had begun writing it in October 1887 while practicing medicine in Colombo. The following year, 1888, in London, he made some changes in the plot and corrected some chapters already written. He wrote more chapters in Paris and Madrid, and finished the manuscript in Biarritz on March 29, 1891. It took him, therefore, 3 years to write his second novel. On July 5, 1891, Rizal left Brussels for Ghent, a famous university in Belgium. His reasons for moving to Ghent were, first, the cost of printing in Ghent was cheaper than in Brussels, and second is to escape from the enticing attraction of Petit Sezame. In Ghent, he met two compatriots, namely Jose Alejandro from Pampanga and Edelberto Evangelista from Manila. Both are studying engineering in the world-famed University of Ghent. Shortly after his arrival in Ghent, Rizal searched for a printing shop that could give him the lowest quotation for the publication of his novel. At last, he did find a publisher named F. Mayer van Loo Press, number 68 in Van Dieren Street, was willing to print his book on installment basis. He pawned his jewels in order to pay the down payment and the early partial payments during the printing of the novel. Meanwhile, as the printing was going on, Rizal became desperate for his friends did not arrive. He had received some money from Basa and 200 pesetas from Rodriguez Arias for the copies of Morga Sucesos sold in Manila. But, but these funds were also used up, and and much more were needed to pay the printer. Rizal's calvary in connection with the printing of the Nolly was repeated in the Phillies printing. His funds ran out in Ghent, a similar calamity that he experienced in Berlin in the winter of 1886. Once more he felt the dolorous grip of despair. In a moment of bitter disillusionment, he almost hurled the manuscript into the flames, just as he almost did to the Nolly in Berlin. When everything seemed lost, help came from an unexpected source. Valentin Ventura in Paris learned of Rizal's predicament and immediately sent him the necessary funds. With his financial aid, the printing of the Feli was resumed. The Feli comes off the press. At last, on September 18, 1891, El Filibusterismo came off the press. Rizal, now a very happy man, immediately sent on this date two printed copies to Hong Kong, one for Basa and the other for Sixto Lopez. To his friend in Paris, Valentin Ventura, who generously loaned him the funds needed to finish the printing of the novel, Rizal gratefully donated the original manuscript and an autographed printed copy. He sent other complimentary copies to Blumentritt, Mariano Ponce, Luciano Lopez Haina, Trinidad Hermenegildo, Pardo de Tavera, Antonio and Juan Luna, and other friends. Filipino compatriots in foreign lands and in the Philippines praised the novel to the skies. The members of the Filipino colony of Barcelona published a tribute in Las Publicidad, a Barcelona newspaper, eulogizing the novel's original style, which is comparable only to the sublime Alexander Dumas, and may well be offered as a model and a precious jewel in the now decadent literature of Spain. The liberal Madrid newspaper El Nuevo Régimen serialized the novel in its issues of October 1891. Practically all the copies of the first edition or the Ghent edition of El Filibusterismo were placed in wooden boxes and shipped to Hong Kong. But almost all the boxes were confiscated and the books were lost. So it came to pass that the book immediately became rare, and the few available Ghent editions were sold at very high prices, reaching as high as 400 pesetas per copy. Evidently, Rizal in all the years of his studies, travels, and labors in foreign lands had not forgotten the martyrdom of Fathers Gomez, Borges, and Zamora, which was Paciano related to him when he was a mere lad in Colomba. He dedicated the El Filibusterismo to them. Never in the annals of mankind has a hero written such a sublime and touching tribute to other heroes as Rizal. The Feli, as the book was called in its abbreviated form, is a continuation of the Nolly in its plot. Again, the main character is Crisostomo Ibarra. This time, however, he is called, for the most part, Simon, and is a business magnate and jeweler. A mystical, demoniacal figure whose only thoughts are to overthrow the existing order, the colonial rule. He is moved partly by the political motives and partly by personal desire for revenge. He proceeds without as a nihilist in accordance with the principle that the worse the conditions are, the earlier the revolution will be. Thus, he uses his wealth to promote the corruption of the ruling class, its arrogance towards the natives and the oppression machinery, and at the same time to draw the attention of the oppressed people to the conditions which he himself, to some extent, has caused, and to provoke their opposition. All of Simon's plans, however, miscarry. The revolution does not succeed, and Simon seeks refuge in the solitude of the mountains, where, strangely, there is a priest with whom the fugitive weighs his actions carefully before his death. The story has a profound symbolism of Rizal. The question of evolution or revolution, and the problem of whether to wait for justice by the hands of the Spaniards or to take the law in one's own hands, are interspersed in the entire book. All the same, the Fili cannot be considered simply as a call to revolution. In the end, the rebellion fails. This failure reflects Rizal's own vacillation and confusion again, the desire for reforms and the acknowledgement of the hopelessness of his efforts, the need for a revolution and the fear of it. In this sense, in many ways, the Noli is regarded as the last admonition to Spain as regards the thrust of its policy in Madrid if peaceful development is not guaranteed through reforms. For this reason, the friars perhaps come off better in the Fili than in the Noli. A commission even found out that the Noli contains 36% of anti-Catholic passages. The Valley, however, just 27%. In this second book, Rizal precisely directed the attack above all towards the entire Spanish colonial apparatus, up to the Governor General. The Valley had a big contribution to Andres Bonifacio and the Katipunan in staving off obstacles in uprising. Here are the sources of the novel's theme. First is the circumstances in Alamba. The persecution of his family include his mother being captured, his family being placed under stringent regulation and their land confiscated by the friars. Another one is because of Leonor Rivera. The mother of Leonor Rivera did not approve of Rizal to be married to her daughter for the reason that Leonor and Rizal are relatives and that Rizal is an heretic. Therefore, Leonor married Henry Kipping, a British railway engineer. Although Leonor eventually died after 2 years, and Leslie because of the absence of unity among the Filipinos.
Good day everyone, we're going to discuss the synopsis of El Filibusterismo. So El Filibusterismo is the sequel of Noli Me Tangere. The book is also known in English, The Reign of Greed. Okay, the protagonist of El Filibusterismo is a jeweler named Simon. He is the new identity of Crisostomo Ibarra, who in the prequel Noli escaped from pursuing soldiers. It is revealed that Crisostomo dug up his buried treasure and fled to Cuba, becoming richer and befriending Spanish officials. After many years, the newly fashioned Simon returns to the Philippines, where he is able to freely move around. He is a powerful figure not only because of his wealth, but also because he is a good friend and advisor of the Governor General. Outwardly, Simon is a friend of Spain. However, in secret, he is plotting a terrible revenge against the Spanish authorities. His two obsessions are to rescue his paramour Maria Clara from the nunnery of Santa Clara and to foment Philippine revolutions against Spain. So the story revolves around the return of Juan Crisostomo Ibarra, but he is no longer known as Juan Crisostomo and he is now known as Simon. Way back in the story of Noli Me Tangere, Juan Crisostomo Ibarra was escaped from the Guardia Civil that they think the person they killed was Ibarra. Pero ang totoong nabaril nila ay si Elias. So, nakaligtas si Crisostomo Ibarra. And then, ngayon pumunta si Juan Crisostomo Ibarra sa Cuba. Naging mayaman siya, nagkaroon siya ng mga connection sa ma-impluensyang Spanish official. So, upon his arrival in the Philippines, mas naging influential si Simon dahil daw every time na may gagawin na desisyon ang Governor General, kumbaga ay kumukonsulta sila or humihingi sila ng opinion at suggestion kay Simon. So, ganun kalaki ang kanyang role sa kwento ng El Filibusterismo. And then also in this part, Simon has a plan to revenge against Spanish. And then gusto niyang ma-rescue si Maria Clara na nasa kumbento. Next, the story of El Filibusterismo begins on board a steamer ship sailing up the Pasig River from Manila to Laguna de Bay. Among the passengers are Simon, Doña Victorina, a pro-Spanish native woman who is going to Laguna in search of her henpecked husband, Tiburcio de Espadanya, who has deserted her, Paulita Gomez, her beautiful niece, Ben Zaib, a Spanish journalist who writes silly articles about the Filipinos, Padre Sibayla, Vice Rector of the University of Santo Tomas, Padre Camora, the parish priest of the town of Tiani, Don Custodio, a pro-Spanish Filipino holding a position in the government, Padre Salve, then Franciscan friar and former cura of San Diego, Padre Irene, a kind friar who was a friend of the Filipino students, Padre Florentino, a retired scholarly and patriotic Filipino priest, Isagani, a poet nephew of Padre Florentino and a lover of Paulita, and Basilio, son of Sisa and promising medical student, whose medical education is financed by his patron Capitan Tiago. Okay, the story of El Fili begins aboard a steamer ship traveling from Manila to Laguna de Bay up the Pasig River, and they are the passengers on the ship. Next, a man of wealth and mastery. Simon is a very close friend and confidante of the Spanish Governor General because of his great influence in Malacanang. He was called the Brown Cardinal or the Black Eminence. By using his wealth and political influence, he encourages corruptions in the government, promotes the oppression of the masses, and hastens the moral degradations of the country so that the people may become desperate and fight. He smuggles arms into the country with the help of a rich Chinese merchant, Quiroga, who aspired to be Chinese consul of Manila. His first attempt to begin the armed uprising did not materialize because at the last hour he hears the sad news that Maria Clara died in the nunnery. In his agonizing moment of bereavement, he did not give the signal for the outbreak of hostilities. So here we can notice that Simon's personality became like a villain. When he used to be here, what he does is that he encourages those in the government to defraud and exploit the people, so that the victims will become more enraged. As a result, he made both sides fight to have a revolution. So with the help of a wealthy Chinese merchant named Quiroga, who aims to be the Chinese consul in Manila, he smuggles weaponry into the nation. And then the uprising he planned was subsequently put on hold because when he found out or heard that Maria Clara had died in the nunnery. So when he found out, Simon seemed upset. So he forgot to give a signal to the uprising revolution they would do. Next, after a long time of illness brought about by the bitter loss of Maria Clara, Simon perfects his plan to overthrow the government. On the occasion of the wedding of Paulita Gomez and Juanito Pilaes, he gives a wedding gift to them, a beautiful lamp. Only he and his confidential associates, Basilio, Susan, who joined this revolutionary cause, know that when the wick of his lamp burns lower than nitroglycerin hidden in its secret compartment will explode, destroying the house where the wedding feast is going to be held, killing all the guests, and clothing the governor general, the friars, and the government officials. Simultaneously, all the government buildings in Manila will be blown by Simon's followers. As the wedding feast begins, the poetess Sagani, who has been rejected by Paulita because of his liberal ideas, is standing outside the house, sorrowfully watching the merriment inside. Basilio, his friend, warns him to go away because the light and the lamp will soon explode. Okay, Simon planted a bomb that would explode any time, killing everyone present, including the friars and Spanish government officials. He planned to offer the bride a lamp as a present. There was a bomb in the lamp that may explode at any time. When that lamp goes off, it's a sign or another reason for the members of Simon insurrection to attack government facilities in Manila. Meanwhile, Isagani, Paulita's former lover or ex, was standing outside the reception area. So imagine you go to the wedding of your loved one and you witness she is married to someone else. Ouch. And then his friend Basilio informed him that there was a bomb that was about to explode na hawak ngayon ng ikinakasal. Next, upon hearing the horrible secret of the lamp, Isagani realized that his beloved Paulita is in grave danger. To save her life, he rushes into the house, seizes the lighted lamp, and hurls it into the river, where it explodes. The revolutionary plot is thus discovered. Simon is cornered by the soldiers, but he escapes. Mortally wounded and carrying his treasure chest, he seeks refuge in the home of Padre Florentino by the sea. The Spanish authorities, however, learns of his presence in the house of Padre Florentino. Lieutenant Perez of the Guardia Civil informs the press by letter that he will come at 8 o'clock that night to arrest Simon. Simon eludes arrest by taking poison. As he is dying, he confesses to Padre Florentino, revealing his true identity, his dastardly plan to use his wealth to avenge himself, and the sinister aim to destroy his friends and enemies. Okay, so when the bomb was about to explode, Isagani took it and threw it into the river. Why? Because he doesn't want to hurt his ex Paulita. Because he realized that he still loves her. As a result, all of the persons present were saved. So after that, they realized that Simon had done something revolutionary. He was the one who proposed it and the revolution's leader. So Simon escaped so far, but he was wounded while carrying his jewelry, and he proceeded to Padre Florentino's residence. Okay, Padre Florentino's house is far from civilization. However, Simon's whereabouts was discovered by Lieutenant Perez of the Guardia Civil. Simon would be arrested that night according to the lieutenant. So imagine they didn't immediately arrest Simon, but they warned first the press that in 8 o'clock at the evening they would arrest Simon. When Simon found out that he was about to be caught by the Guardia Civil, he drank poison that night and committed himself, confessing to Padre Florentino that he was truly Juan Crisostomo Ibarra and to his plan to exact revenge on the Spanish government. Next, the confession of the dying Simon is long and painful. It is already night when Padre Florentino, wiping the sweat from his wrinkled brow, rises and begins to meditate. He consoles the dying man, saying, "God will forgive you, Senor Simon. He knows that we are fallible. He has seen that you have suffered, and in ordaining that the chastisements for your faults should come as death from the very ones you have instigated to crime. We can see His infinite mercy. He has frustrated your plans one by one. The best conceived first by the death of Maria Clara, then by a lack of preparation. Then in some mysterious way, let us bow to His will and render Him thanks." Watching Simon die peacefully with a clear conscience and at peace with God, Padre Florentino falls upon his knees and prays for the dead jeweler. The priest then takes the treasure chest and throws it into the sea. Okay, then ito yung huling nabanggit ni Padre Florentino kay Simon. God will forgive you, Senor Simon. So the story ends when Padre Florentino throws Simon's jewelry into the ocean so that no one would use it for evil or greed. But he still hopes if someone would find it, he or she will use it for good one day.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Christine Tahil, and now let's talk about El Filibusterismo characters. So, in this section, I have included some major and minor characters in the novel. First and foremost, let's talk about the main character of the novel, which is Simeon, Crisostomo Ibarra in disguise, in which he was left for dead at the end of No Limitangere, and has resurfaced as the wealthy jeweler Simeon, sporting a beard, blue-tinted glasses, and a revolver. Fueled by his mistreatment at the hands of the Spaniards and his fury at Maria Clara's fate, he has since shed his pacifist image and become the titular filibustero, pretending to side with the upper class and encouraging them to enslave the masses, while in reality siding with the masses and urging them to revolt against the oppressive Spanish regime. This time, he does not attempt to fight the authorities with knowledge, but by force. He concocts a plot to set off a bomb disguised as a beautiful lamp at a wedding where important members of civil society at the church hierarchy are in attendance. Unfortunately for him, his plan fails and he commits suicide by taking poison. Another character is Basilio. He is the son of Sisa, a graduating medical student who befriended Simeon. This is the same Basilio introduced in No Limitangere. Next is Isagani Villamor. He is Basilio's friend, ex-beau or ex-boyfriend of Paulita Gomez, and the man who removed the explosive lamp from the Captain Santiago's house, thus sabotaging Simeon's plans. Another is Cabisang Tales, also known as Cabisa Telesforo Juan de Dios, a former Cabisa de Barangay or the barangay head of Sagpang, a barangay in San Diego's neighboring town Tiani, who resurfaced as the feared Luzon bandit Matanglawin. Another is Don Custodio de Salazar y Sanchez de Monterredondo, a famous journalist who was asked by the students about his decision for the Academia de Castellano. In reality, he is quite an ordinary fellow who married a rich woman in order to be a member of Manila's high society. Another is Paulita Gomez, the girlfriend of Isagani and the niece of Doña Victorina, the old Indio who passes herself off as a peninsular who is the wife of the quack doctor Tiburcio de Espadanya. In the end, Paulita Gomez and Juanito Pilaes are wed, and she dumps Isagani, believing that she will have no future if she marries him. Another is Macaraig, one of Isagani's classmates at the University of Santo Tomas. He is a rich student and serves as the leader of the students yearning to build the Academia de Castellano. Another is Father Florentino. He is Isagani's godfather and a secular priest, was engaged to be married, but chose to be a priest after being pressured by his mother. The story hinting at the ambivalence of his decision as he chooses an assignment to a remote place, living in solitude near the sea. Another is Julie San Jose, or also known as Juliana de Dios, the girlfriend of Basilio and the youngest daughter of Cabisang Tales, to claim her father from the bandits. She had to work as a maid under the supervision of her mana Pinchang. Eventually, she was freed but committed suicide after Father Camara attempted to rape her. Another is Juanito Pilaes, a favorite student of the professors, and they belong to the noble Spanish ancestry. Another is Doña Victorina, Victorina de los Reyes de Espadaña, known in Olimitangere as Tiburcio de Espadaña's cruel wife. She is the aunt of Paulita Gomez and favors Juanito Pilaes de Isagani. Although of Indio ideology, she considers herself as one of the peninsular. Father Camara, the lustful parish priest of Tiani, San Diego's adjacent town, who has long-time desires for a young woman, he nearly raped Julie, causing the latter to commit suicide. Another is Ben Saib, the pseudonym of Abraham Ibanez, a journalist who believes he is the only one thinking in the Philippines. Ben Saib is an anagram of Ibanez, an alternate spelling of his name. Another is Placido Penitente, a student of the University of Santo Tomas who was very intelligent and wise, but it's not what he wants. If not only by his mother's plea to pursue his studies, he also controls his temper against Padre Milan, his physics teacher. Another is Hermana Penchang, Sagpang's rich pusakal or gambler. She offers Julie or Huli to be her maid so the latter can obtain money to free Kabisantales. And disbelieving of Huli and her close friends, she considers herself as an ally of the friars. Another is Tiburcio de Espadaña. Don Tiburcio is Victorina Espadaña's lame husband, as what I have said earlier, and he is currently on hiding with Father Florentino. Another is Father Irene, Captain Tiago's spiritual advisor. Although reluctant, he helped the students to establish the Academia de Castellano after being convinced by giving him a chestnut. The only witness to Capitan Tiago's death, and he forged the last will and testament of the latter, so Basilio will obtain nothing from the inheritance. Another is Kiruga, a Chinese businessman who dreamed of being a consul for his country in the Philippines. He hid Simeon's weapons inside his house. Another is Don Timoteo Pilaes. He is Juanito's father. He is a rich businessman and arranges a wedding for his son and Paulita. He is also Simon's business partner. Tandang Celo, father of Kabisang Tales. He raised the sick and young Basilio after he left their house in Nolimitangere. He died in an encounter on the mountains with his son Tales. Another is Father Fernandez, the priest friend of Isagani. He promised to Isagani that he and the other priests will give in to the students' demands. Another is Sandoval, the vice leader of Macarig's gang, a Spanish classmate of Isagani, and he coerces his classmates to lead alongside him with the opening of the Spanish Language Academy. Another is Hermana Bali. She is another gambler in Tiani. She became Julie's mother figure and counselor, helped to release Kabisang Tales from the hands of the bandits. Another is Father Milion, the physics teacher of the University of Santo Tomas, and he always becomes vindictive with Placido and always stunts him during class. Another is Taddeo, Macaraig's classmate. He, along with the other three members of their gang, supposedly posted the poster that thanked Don Custodio and Father Irene for the opening of the Academia de Castellano. Another is Leeds. He is an American who holds stage plays starring decapitated heads. He is also a good friend with Simeon. Another is Tano, Kabisang Tali's elder son after his older sister Lucia died in childhood. He is currently one of the Guardia Civil. He then returned under the name of Carolino after his exile in Caroline Islands. Another is Pepay, Don Custodio's supposed girlfriend, a dancer, and she is always agitated over boyfriend's plans. She seems to be a close friend of Macaraig. Another is Gobernador General, the highest-ranking official in the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period. This unnamed character pretends that what he is doing is for the good of the Indios, the local citizens of the country, but in reality he prioritizes the needs of his fellow Spaniards living in the country. Another is Pecson, Basilio's classmate who had no idea on the happenings occurring around him, and he suggested that they held the mock celebration at the Panciteria. Another is Father Hernando de Sevilla, a Dominican friar introduced in Nolimitangere, now the vice rector of the University of Santo Tomas. And Father Bernardo Salvi, former parish priest of San Diego, now the director and chaplain of the Santa Clara Convent. And lastly is Capitan Tiago, Santiago de los Santos. Although making a cameo appearance, Capitan Tiago is Maria Clara's stepfather and the foster father to Basilio. His health disintegrates gradually because of the opium he was forced to smoke, given to him by Father Irene. And that's all for the characters of El Filibusterismo.
Hi, I'm IGT Restauro, and in this video, I will going to tackle about the comparisons between the two famous novels of Dr. Jose Rizal, The Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. The two novels of Rizal vary in many respects, although they are written by the same author and are supposed to be dealing with the same story and the same characters.
The novel Noli Me Tangere is a romantic novel. It is a work of the heart or a book of feeling. It has freshness, color, humor, lightness, and wit. On the other hand, the novel El Filibusterismo is a political novel. It is a work of the head or a book of the thought. It contains bitterness, hatred, pain, violence, and sorrow. The original intention of Rizal was to make the El Filibusterismo longer than the Noli Me Tangere. However, as printed, the El Filibusterismo is shorter than the Noli Me Tangere, as it only contains 38 chapters, whereas the Noli Me Tangere contains 64 chapters. The reason that Rizal has to cut the El Filibusterismo drastically is because of the lack of funds. The main highlights of having this comparison is to know the different opinions of the Rizal's friends and our Rizalist today, in which is the superior novel. Is it the Noli Me Tangere or the novel El Filibusterismo? But Rizal himself considered the Noli Me Tangere as superior to the novel El Filibusterismo. And also, Marcelo H. Del Pilar agreed to his opinion. Rizal's first Spanish biographer Ritana also believes that the novel Noli Me Tangere is superior to the novel El Filibusterismo. However,
Others, including Blumentritt, Graciano Lopez-Jaime, and Dr. Rafael Palma, are of the opinion that the El Filibusterismo is superior to the novel Noli Me Tangere. Although Lopez-Jaime, in a letter to Rizal dated October 2, 1891 said, El Filibusterismo is a novel superior to You Noli Me Tangere, as much for its exquisite delicate literary style, its easy and correct dialogue, its clear phraseology, vigorous and elegant, as for its profound ideas and sublime thoughts. However, he was not satisfied fully with the El Filibusterismo as a political novel for the reason that its end is not a worthy climax to a work so beautiful. Accordingly, he advised Rizal to write another novel which would give a definite solution to the country's problem so that the coming of the beautiful day of our redemption may be hastened. The issue of which is the superior novel among the two novels of our national hero Dr. Jose Rizal, the Noli Me Tangere or the El Filibusterismo, is purely academic. Both are good novels from the point of view of history. Both depict with realistic colors the actual conditions of the Philippines and the Filipinos during the decadent days of Spanish rule. Both are instrumental in awakening the spirit of Filipino nationalism, and both are responsible in paving the ground for the Philippine Revolution that brought about the downfall of Spain. Neither the Noli nor the Fili is superior to one another. As Mariano Ponce actually told Rizal, after reading the El Filibusterismo, it is, indeed, excellent. I can say nothing of your book, but this, it is really marvelous, like all the brilliant productions of your pen. It is a true twin of the Noli Me Tangere. That's all. Thank you. I hope you have learned something from the report.